No, you forgot to put it on loop. Welcome back, College Baseball Central fans. We are the weekend rotation. We're here joining you after the first opening day here of college baseball season in 2024. Noah and Jake, your mics are still muted here. We're going to get into this here. I'm pretty excited here. I'm joined today by AJ Sessions. How we doing, AJ?
Doing well. It was a long day of baseball yesterday, but it was finally a day of baseball.
Yeah, I know my voice is, I'm still fighting it, and I was just screaming at a TV all day here. It was great. Jake, how we doing today?
Baseball's back from 10 a.m. to 3 a.m. We're rocking and rolling all day, ready to go for round two.
Round two starts up today. Jake McKeever. Noah Darling, how we doing, man? I know you did a little bit of a pizza tasting last night and you got into some baseball. It was a great day.
Yeah, overall, pretty strong day. Great to be back watching in the command center, per se, with the three screens around me, kind of just ODing on college baseball all day. It's great to be back. But I don't like how I go third in this rotation now. I used to be the Friday night guy, and now I've been bumped to Sundays.
Hey, if you're Cade Obermuller, you're still good, though. We still love you. So we're bringing you all the action here from Friday night games. We're going to talk about all the games that went on yesterday. We're going to talk about some of the games going into the rest of the weekend here. There's a lot to cover. We are really excited, but the number one story in college baseball might be number two. Florida going down to St. John's 9-5 yesterday. Cade Fisher gets the loss. Didn't really necessarily look great. Noah, what do you say about that Florida game?
A lot of people will kind of overrate that first game just because you want to win it so badly to get going on a good foot. This is still an excellent Florida ball club. People are going to probably overreact a little bit, especially now that Florida has announced that there's only going to be one more game played in this kind of series. It's now just almost feels like a midweek on a weekend. But this Florida team, you still saw the potential for him. Colby Shelton had a really strong game. Obviously, Cade Fisher didn't pitch as well as they wanted, but they were able to come back a little bit late. They were getting blown out for a minute there. It was something I think like 7-2, and then they ended up trimming away, and they came up just short at the end. So this is still a Florida team that feel good about. Obviously, wish they had come out in the win column, but not hitting the panic button or anything just yet. Just one game.
Yeah, just one game. And I mean, it's not fun to lose the opener, but, like you said, Jack Aglione, he had two hits also. Colby Shelton had a home run and a double. Pretty good in his opener there for Florida. They'll be fine. Not great to see Cade Fisher not dominate that St. John's lineup, but you still got a long season ahead of you here. Let's jump into the next one here. Florida Gulf Coast and TCU. Florida Gulf Coast loses it there late in that one. They were dominating that game for most of it, and then they just could not hang on to a lead. Some errors there late. Jake, when you were watching this one, was it just like tough? For me, I just kept closing my eyes. I'm like, this is not happening.
Yeah, it felt almost like a TCU regional where they get a little Lupton magic late, and then at the end with the strikeout, I felt like we as fans got robbed by how that game was ending. It felt like it should have ended on a hit or something like that, not a strikeout where Peyton Chatney steals an extra base. But TCU kind of rode the highs and the lows. I think that's what this team's going to have to do this year. They're so talented that when their pitching is off, their hitting can kind of pick up the slack. So they're going to be a team that you see win games a lot of different ways.
That's fair. And Noah, I know we were watching the game live as well, but you were watching it and you were like just tweeting like a madman excited about this one here. What did you think about that TCU comeback?
I think this is a TCU ball club that it's really hard to – it feels like when you have a bias against a team, you say, oh, wow, they really struggled. And then when you like a team, you say, wow, what grit and determination. So I'm just really proud about the grit and determination I saw from this TCU team. They have so much potential. Silva has taken the next step as a player. Peyton Tully looked really good at the plate. He kind of got beaten up a little bit on the mound to start. That'll happen. I believe in this TCU ball club. I was excited to see them start off 1-0. Pretty strong crowd. It's kind of funny. I was talking to Ray Cartwright with the Lupton people down there that he was talking, oh, it's so cold, and you see Kirk Saarloos in his winter coat. It's 50 degrees. We can relax. It felt a little tropical, I'm sure. Other than that, really excited to see TCU come out on top on that one. This is a really good ball club. You see Silva there with his homer. Every time he hits the ball, it's right on the screws.
Yeah, and he was really good yesterday. This team is going to be fine. That's a good comeback win for them. I don't want to hear anybody saying 50 degrees is cold. I currently have 8 inches of snow, and it's still continuing to snow in my front yard. So I don't want to hear that. It's college baseball season. Go play even if it's 30 degrees, people. Moving on to a game that was actually kind of colder was Indiana versus Duke. Duke took care of business there. That was a great start there for Santucci. Noah, I know you were excited as I was for this one to be one of our opening games of the weekend. Just kind of felt like, man, why do we only get one of these?
Yeah, this was great because originally it wasn't going to be broadcasted at all, and then the people at Coastal Carolina came together, and not only did they get it broadcasted, but it was a really strong broadcast. It felt like a postseason game in every sense of the word. Multiple camera angles, which is something that we kind of underrate in our sport, especially this time of year. But it was a great game. It started off as a pitcher's duel, and then right when the bullpens came out, it turned into a little bit of a slugfest for a second there. But Duke still flexed the pitching depth that they have. And when they mix in the long ball like they did against Indiana, this is a team that can play in Omaha, and I know several of us do have them playing in Omaha.
Yeah, and Santucci gets the win there. He was a little wild there in the first, and you saw him settle down. You're like, oh boy, this guy's going to be a dude this year. He's going to be really good. He started finding the strike zone, and that's kind of why he exited a little earlier than he would have liked to. But it's exciting to see this team. It was exciting. It was a great way to start college baseball. Devin Taylor there for Indiana got a couple hits as well. So the stars really did shine in that one in the 6-3 win for Duke. Moving on to our next one here, we got VCU and NC State. AJ, I'm gonna let you start with this one since you haven't got to talk much yet. NC State 6-1 victory over VCU. This NC State team's going to have to come through a lot of adversity already this season, missing some pieces.
Yeah, and we saw, Sam Highfield wasn't supposed to be their Friday night guy. He stepped in, gave up the one run early, but then settled in, had a really nice outing. And then that NC State offense, we know they're going to put up runs. You just got to give them time to kind of get going. And they did. They just consistently kept tacking on, had a big fourth inning, and just kind of put this one comfortably out of reach for a VCU team that really couldn't get much going. But it was nice to see NC State be able to kind of weather the big injury and win on opening day.
Yeah, it was. It was good to see that NC State team come out. I know a lot of people have them picked as one of those dark horses that could be a really good team this year. Jake, I know you've talked about them a little bit. You like this NC State team. What did you think about that 6-1 opening day win?
It almost felt like a true NC State win, only allowing one run. The offense really, really kind of slowed out, and then Matt Heaver kind of got the offense going. Cozart had a bomb. And again, I'm really waiting to see how they kind of attack these next two games before I kind of see where this NC State game is, because they were supposed to kind of win on opening day. They just seemed like everybody kind of moved up a spot. So let's see how their Saturday, Sunday guys do. But I think the sky is the limit for this NC State team.
Agreed. This team could be really, really good. It's going to be exciting to watch this team. They're just going to have to fill in some of those holes that they've already had with injury, which is tough already in the season here. Oregon versus Oklahoma. Oregon beats Oklahoma 4-2 in what was really most of a pitcher's duel. Good to see R.J. Gordon coming back here for the Ducks. AJ, I know that when we watched this one, we were like, okay, pitching is going to be key for this year for the Ducks and for Oklahoma. Who's going to win this battle?
Yeah, and it was, underrated game there. I know a lot of people were kind of keyed in on Tennessee, Texas Tech later on, but they had a very good game early. It just seemed like Oregon was the better team today, but both of these teams are teams that are going to want to make postseason runs. And from what we saw today, they have the frontline pitching to do so. It's just a matter of, do they have the timely hitting? And today, Oregon didn't, or yesterday, Oregon didn't, Oklahoma didn't.
Yeah, and that's what it came down to, right? It was how can we piece together runs? How can we get the hits when we need to? Oregon came up with them. We saw the freshman Dominic Hellman get that RBI single in the first, and then Oregon kind of just rode that all the way into just saying, okay, we got the pitching. We're going to go through our whole staff. The two relievers that came in for Oregon ended up giving up one hit in the final 4 2/3 of ball, which is really, really good to see for Oregon. I know that they're excited to have R.J. Gordon back there on the starting bump there for the first time on Friday in 2 years. So pretty excited for this Oregon Duck team. Good win for them to start off against this Oklahoma squad that's pretty solid. So good to see that one there. Moving on, Tennessee and Texas Tech. This was a game that, like you just mentioned, AJ, everybody had highlighted. Everybody wanted to watch this one. Jake, I'm going to let you start with this one because I know how much of a Texas Tech guy you are down there. Let us know about this one here because that one was a tough one against Tennessee, but it's a very good opening game still.
It felt like a game that was every bit as advertised. I mean, we had the good front end pitching. I think A.J. Russell for Tennessee was tremendous. His pitch count kind of rose a little bit early, so that's why he got out of there. And then Billy Amick with the opposite field home run. But I think that this is kind of what we're going to see a lot from this Tennessee team. They're going to find ways to win when their offense. I mean, their offense is just so deep. Even when their guys don't click at the top, they get production all up and down it. And then for Texas Tech, I honestly they kind of surprised me a little bit. I thought that they were going to kind of come out, get waxed by a Tennessee team that was more talented. So credit to Texas Tech for kind of riding those first few punches and making it a close game.
Yeah, Texas Tech just kind of held it there. They didn't do enough with the bats to, of course, win this one, but very good for just staying in that ball game with a very good Tennessee team. No, if you're a Tennessee fan today, you got to be pretty excited still on winning opening day.
Yeah, sure. It's always great to be 1-0, and it's always great when it's against a power team. It feels like this 2 years in a row, Tennessee hasn't really been like exotic in front of our eyes, but that's kind of because the way that they burst on the scene was, look at us, we're going to score a million runs and taunt all over you. So this is a win that you have to be excited about if you're a Tennessee fan, even if they didn't score 10 million runs and they didn't really separate from Texas Tech. This is still a really good ball club, and I credit Texas Tech for kind of sticking around and making it a snug game for Tennessee. But A.J. Russell looked electric for those first innings that he was in, and that's something that Tennessee fans have to feel really good about.
Yeah, Tennessee's got to feel pretty good about that pitching staff, especially after facing this Texas Tech team that can really hit the ball. Moving on to another team that really hit the ball on the opening day, Oregon State puts up 15 against New Mexico. Now, New Mexico's not known for their pitching. They can hit, but Oregon State puts it up with 7 home runs from 6 different players. Noah, were you watching any of this one on Flow Sports?
I was able to watch some clips that came. I have yet to purchase Flow Sports, so
I
that's
thought it was on MLB Network.
no, it
No,
was
it wasn't.
on Flow.
Oh, I
MLB
just saw the
Network
highlights,
was-
Mark.
was
Sorry about that.
K-State Cal was on MLB Network.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was able to watch the Bazana homer, the freshman that you guys have that everybody's
Brent Caraway.
Yep. It feels like the days of old where Oregon State would go down to surprise, score a million runs, and we say, all right, Oregon State is back. And they are back. This is a loaded roster. We were very excited about them during the preseason. Mark, I know you all got us on the Oregon State train. In the CBC group chat this morning, somebody asked who's going to win the national championship, and almost all the answers were Oregon State. So that was a pretty strong showing against New Mexico.
Yeah, and Aiden May, the transfer in from Arizona, started that game against New Mexico, gives up 1 run in 5 innings. Great start for him. So when you look at this overall, they were up 15-1 at one time, and they brought in a bunch of relievers trying to get some outs there and get some innings. Oregon State is a very strong team, and if they're going to hit like that, they're pretty tough. You're looking at a lineup that had the 7, 8, 9, and 1 hitters all hit home runs yesterday, and a pinch hit home run from a guy off the bench. So when you're talking about 7 home runs for the Beavers, that's a new record also for Oregon State for home runs in a single game. But big win there for Oregon State. Good showing there opening day. It's always great, like I said, to get that opening day win. Another big offensive performance we're going to talk about next. George Mason 0, Coastal Carolina 26. AJ, my goodness, Coastal just decided to hit, huh?
Yeah, it was BP for them. They had 2 grand slams in the first 3 innings, and then it just didn't slow down. It was a massacre from the jump. And we just saw we know this Coastal team's going to hit. I don't think many of us expected this outburst, but we're not incredibly surprised. They're going to score a lot. I think the more impressive part is Riley Eckhoff throwing. There's either 5 or 6 hitless. They only gave up 1 hit the entire game as a staff. That is what they absolutely need. They need a Friday night guy to go and limit damage, especially when conference play rolls around. That is what I'd take away from this game, despite the fact they scored 26 runs.
Yeah, when you can still go out there and compete on the mound and you keep competing when you have that big of a lead, that's hard to do sometimes because you start going, okay, all I got to do is throw it over the plate and get outs here. But when you keep competing on the mound like that, good to see, great to see that from them. Jake, we know that Coastal can hit. They can hit at home. Does this carry over into the next games here for the rest of the weekend?
I think it has to just because they're at home. And when you come out with an impressive showing like that, it really does have to carry over. But if you're George Mason, I mean, just flush it and move on. Like, it's just the end of one loss. Like 1-0, losing 1-0 counts the same as losing 26-0. So hopefully George Mason can kind of bounce back because I don't know how you come back for a game like that. They didn't really do much right.
Well, they don't get much opportunity because now they get Indiana and then Duke, so their setup for the weekend is not.
They're
the
on the
best.
chin early.
It's not super fun to start off with that weekend there, but yeah, good for Coastal. We know they can hit, and they really did take advantage of playing at their home ballpark there for this weekend. Moving on to the next one here, we got Fordham and Wake Forest. Fordham put up 3 on this Wake team that's got bolstered pitching. They're the number 1 team in the country. Nobody is saying anything negatively about this Wake team. Josh Hartle goes out there and gets his first win. Looks really good there on the mound. AJ, I know that we were excited to watch this Wake team come out this year, especially ranked number 1. How excited were you after game 1?
Yeah, I think it was kind of a snap back to reality a little bit. Josh Hartle looked good. He didn't look great. The offense, they got out hit by Fordham. They only got 5 hits on the game, but they were timely hits. They did draw 9 walks. So there are pluses and minuses on this Wake team. They're not going to be a perfect team, and I think we saw an imperfect team today, but a team that showed up and was more than good enough to beat a team like Fordham.
Yep, and that's all you got to do, right? If you're Wake, you just go out there and collect wins at this point in the season right now. You're getting your guys ready, getting ready for ACC play, but go out there, collect wins, be the number 1 team in the country, and they took care of business. That's what they're supposed to do. Moving on to the next one, we got Ole Miss and Hawaii. This one ended late for you East Coasters and Central Time Zoners, even late for me after midnight. Ole Miss wins it in 13. Jake, when you looked at this one here, I know that people are pretty down on Ole Miss. Hawaii is like one of those wild card teams when you have to travel out there and play. This was still an exciting broadcast, fun game to watch.
Yeah, Ole Miss really kind of needed this one. They need JT Quinn to kind of go out and stack up as many wins as they can, because outside of him, it really is kind of a wild card with what you're going to get from the staff. I'm very high on Hawaii, so I was kind of impressed by the Ole Miss more than, I guess, Hawaii. But exciting stuff to see from the island. And again, I think it ended at about 3:30 time, so I had to catch the highlights this morning. It was the only game I didn't really pay attention to, but I think JT Quinn went out and shoved, which is what we expected. But again, show me who you have in your Saturday and who you have in your bullpen.
Yeah, and Quinn he got pulled early there. That one he had a throwing error, kind of gave up some runs on the error after that. But he was, pretty good with those strikeouts. He has the stuff to be a guy. But Hawaii made him pay for his mistakes out there. Noah, when you were watching this game, I know that it was late for all of us here. But that was awesome to go 13 innings to opening day, especially the very last game going has to go the latest. How excited were you for this Ole Miss Hawaii game?
You got to love it. It's a kind of an opening day tradition that we all watch every game, and then it's all kind of all happening at once, and then it really settles down and say, all right, what's Hawaii up to? And we got to watch them play against a really strong team in terms of a Power 5 team, and that's Ole Miss. And then all of a sudden it was, okay, I can't stay up to watch this any longer. It was like 1 o'clock for me. A few hours later, I wake up in the middle of the night and I see that the game had just ended. So a great win for Ole Miss. I haven't quite had the chance to watch how those last few innings went. I know that they won by 2. So good for them to kind of pull away there in extra innings. But you would have liked to see them do it earlier in the game as an SEC team. They only won by 1, AJ, you said.
5-4 was the final score.
Okay. So I know that they were up by 2 in that last inning.
Yeah. Hawaii tried to make a comeback there late in the 13th, so very late.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a good battle there out there on the island, and Les Miraca Stadium is gorgeous. I've been
good
there.
broadcast too. Great broadcast.
Yeah,
broadcast is
entertaining
terrific.
broadcast. They had
So
great
good.
angles on the cameras.
And they brought in Todd Gurley. And
that was so random.
Throwing out the first pitch, Todd Gurley. I loved it. Great broadcast. Great to see. Great to end our first day of college baseball. We're going down to the first one that started us off college baseball, Indiana State and Louisville. Henry Brown hits the home run there for Indiana State in the 7th to seal this one up for Indiana State. This is 2 good teams. Louisville struggled the rest of the day also and got another loss, but we do like Indiana State, correct there, Noah?
We do like Indiana State. They were a regional host last year. They were very explosive at the plate. And again, Indiana State was able to kind of tweet out some clips from like a camera in their own dugout because this game
It looked like
wasn't
somebody's
streamed.
mom, like filming the kids at bat.
It was something.
That's what it reminded me
It
of.
felt like a little league game, but with great players. They were able to kind of play like a crazy game with Louisville, but we can't really say how crazy it was because it wasn't streamed. But they
It
were
sounded crazy.
Yeah. They came out on top. Good for them. I don't know if this Indiana State team has the potential that they did a year ago, but this is still a good program that they're building up in Terre Haute.
Yeah, my question for the Sycamores is, do they have the pitching that they had a year ago? And I don't know if they do. I don't think they do. But the offense seems to still be there, so we're excited to see what this team can do. Another team that we're excited to see what they can do, and they had a comeback win, was Hofstra 8, Virginia 10. Jake, I know that we were a little higher on Virginia, and it's kind of surprising that they were down early in this game.
Yeah, they came out kind of flat to start it out and then kind of rolled through the waves. And no, you're throwing me off there with these videos. But I think that this was just kind of like a quintessential Virginia win where you kind of walk away from it and you're like, yeah, they won. So, I mean, but the winning streak still survives. They went undefeated last year against non-conference opponents. So I think it's up to like 40 or 42 now. So exciting stuff from Virginia going forward.
Yeah, they didn't necessarily look great, right? But they took care of business. They came back, they won, and they won with the sticks. They had to go out there and get those hits to win that game. AJ, I know we talked about that earlier. You're not gifted games on the opening day of the weekend, so it's nice to get those wins, right?
Yeah, especially to start the year against some of these teams a little bit more in the north. They're not going to be able to be outside much. They're just swinging it. So Hofstra's been in the cages. I don't think they've been able to go outside very much. Virginia, it looks like they were in the cages. Don't know how much they've been able to have scrimmages and stuff outside of maybe one-on-ones, but it was an offensive slugfest, and Virginia needed to battle back. We saw a couple teams who needed to battle back not do it. Virginia battled back, and Aiden Teal got his first save. If that name sounds familiar, Kyle Teal's younger brother.
Yeah, good for Teal to get it up there and get that save, and good for Virginia to keep the streak alive of beating non-conference opponents and winning this one here 10-8. Another game AJ had his eye on, as I did as well. Miami of Ohio won, South Carolina 5. Not necessarily the huge offensive explosion we wanted to see from South Carolina, but really good pitching. Tell us about Eli Jones and how well he threw yesterday, AJ.
Yeah, he had a walk and a hit by pitch in the first inning, and that Miami, Ohio manufactured a run out of that, and that was all they had the entire game. He gave up weak contact the entire game. He's not a huge strikeout guy. 6 innings, 3 hits. Bullpen came in, and Eddie Copper struggled a little bit. Chris Veach came in, bases loaded, no outs, got out of it. It was the pitching South Carolina fans want to see, not the offense they want to see. That's going to come, but the pitching was very promising, especially when you throw 4 guys out of the bullpen and all put up zeros.
Yeah, I think you got to be excited if you're a South Carolina fan because the offense is there. The offense is going to be fine. They maybe didn't show up game one here, but that pitching to show up game one, that's something that everybody's been wondering about the offseason is this pitching staff's been very highly propped up and said that they're going to be good this year. They're going to be better. They came out and showed it. Very exciting to see that. I thought Eli Jones was great there with the 6 innings, the 3 hits, really nothing hit hard off of him. Good for him to go out there and get a win on game one. All right. Cal and K-State. Cal beats Kansas State 6-3. Noah, I'm gonna let you start with this one because I know that we both love this K-State team, but we also have been saying that Cal could be a team that people are going to be shocked by. So this was a great one for us to open with.
I'm glad you remembered my Cal like and my unfortunate Kansas State love. I actually had Cal winning this game, and I think Vegas even agreed with me that Cal was actually favored in this one, even though we like Kansas State to be a tournament safe, not a lock, but safely in the tournament, whereas Cal is a team that we don't expect to be in the NCAA tournament. But this is a Cal team that played really well. They got to that Kansas State pitching kind of early, and then they were just kind of able to separate throughout the game. It was your classic Cal smooth win. And then Kansas State had a few pieces where you're able to get excited about. Culpepper had a good game for them. But otherwise, you want to see Kansas State win these kind of games because these are the kind of games that get you in the NCAA tournament, whereas last year we all know they were left out.
And we know the Kansas State's got the pitching. The one thing that we kept worrying about is where they're going to get the runs from, and they could not come back on this Cal team. Jake, when you were watching this one here, I know that we didn't get to see Tyson Neighbors throw because they were down, but this team in Cal really took care of the business.
Yeah, and that was what I kept kind of waiting for was the K-State offense to wake up, and it just never really came. And like Noah mentioned, this is a game that if you're Kansas State, you just have to feel sick to your stomach that you lose. I know it's a long season, but
Yeah, I didn't say
this
that.
was one that was right there for the taking. And, I mean, you almost run out of words because this is going to be what gets them left out of the tournament again. Like, I know it's really early, but that's one that they really needed to kind of boost their RPI because it's going to just tank later in the year.
Yeah, and you got to win these games when you have the opportunity. So good for Cal. I'm excited for Cal coming out there and getting that win. It's a big win for them to start off this year. But no, Kansas State's got to be better in these games. Now they have another opportunity here the couple of rest of the weekend. But I mean, they got to be better if they do want to get in the tournament this year. Nebraska and Baylor. Nebraska puts up 4, Baylor 1. good win for Nebraska. Baylor kind of looks like the team that we've just kind of expected from them lately, and it's just not great. Dylan Carey did have 2 doubles and 2 RBIs there for for Nebraska. Noah, how excited were you excited at all at this one?
Well, when Nebraska and Baylor get together, the reality is that you're taking two of my least favorite athletic departments and putting them on the same field. But their baseball programs are both that are not in similar situations, but both in the sense that they're on the outside of the tournament looking in. I think Baylor's problem is a little bit
I don't
more
think
stable.
Baylor's looking in.
Okay, well,
They're so far out of it. They don't
you're either
know
in or
what's
you're
going
not.
on.
In my metaphor here, Jake, and Baylor's not in the NCAA tournament at this time. Probably won't be for maybe even a couple of years here. But Baylor is a team that probably was a little bit outmatched in this whole tournament, so it's going to be tough sledding for them. And this was supposed to be one that they were going to be able to compete with, and they did for the most part. Pitching was really strong to start. They struck out a lot of guys, and then Nebraska was able to kind of ride Dylan Carey to he either had 2 or 3 RBIs and was able to kind of take the next step that they've been looking for him to do. A lot of season left for him, but he's going to be a big piece for that Nebraska team. And the pitching was better for Nebraska as well. That was an area that they really struggled with. It wasn't as much on the weekends as much as it was the midweeks, but a step forward is a step forward for Nebraska. This is a team that it doesn't really matter how they do in the Big Ten regular season because they get to play a home game in the Big Ten tournament, and that's when they can really turn it on.
Yeah, they'll take their wins when they can get them, and going out there and beating any Power 5 school is still just a win. So you got to love it when you're in Nebraska. And starting off 1-0. 1-0 matters. Speaking of another team, we went 1-0. ECU 16, Rider 2. ECU starting off hot with the sticks there and pitching wise. AJ, I'm going to let you start on this one because I know that your dude, it was the pitcher today. Yes, it's going out there to be the pitcher of the year for you.
Yeah, and he had a good outing. A couple free passes, threw 4 innings, gave up 1 hit, 1 earned run, 8 Ks, and then basically didn't have to pitch anymore because they were already up 9-0. Only threw 78 pitches, so it's not like he was ineffective. Jacob Jenkins Cowart hit a bomb. The offense was rolling, and we're going to get more to the real story of that game here in a later segment. But it was the opening day that ECU fans absolutely wanted to see.
Yep, ECU going out there and getting a win. Jake, I know that this ECU team has got the highs and lows, that we've been high on them, we've been low on them. I know you're one of the guys that's pretty low on this team, but a 16-2 win is still a great opening day game.
Yeah, storybook. They got great starting pitching. They got up early with the offense. Like AJ kind of hinted at, they got to get some guys at bats that really truly deserved it. I think if you're going to script an ECU win, that this is what it is. There's really not too much more to say. I mean, it was a perfect game for ECU.
Yeah, the Pirates in the Jungle were excited out there. They were going crazy there for this one. So good for ECU. Big first game there to win. Again, like we talked about, we love going 1-0 to start the season. A team that we thought might do a little bit better next, AJ. Charlotte gets beat 10-0 by Virginia Tech. The 0 was probably the most shocking part there for Charlotte, and only getting 2 hits. Were you as shocked as I was by this one, AJ?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much turnover with that roster that I think the questions were, what's the pitching staff going to look like? Yeah, they're returning some guys who they relied on for some innings last year, but now they're going to be the frontline starters. Are they going to hold up? And that answer early on was no. And then offense never got going. It was not even – it seemed like it was just a non-competitive ball game from about the second inning on, where Virginia Tech was just coasting in, and it seemed like Charlotte was just prepping for tomorrow.
Yeah, it seemed like Virginia Tech was just going game plan, right? Going out there, hitting, getting a couple of runs here and there, keep piecing it together, getting those 10 runs, and Charlotte just never got the offense rolling. 2 hits is not the best way to start
Mark,
off.
I got a bold
season.
take about Virginia Tech.
Okay.
If they
I'm listening.
figure out the pitching, this is going to be a very, very dangerous team. And
No, I'm not saying that they figured out pitching already. It's one game. But
I mean, I did not expect them to do a shutout the entire year, and they got it on opening day.
Yeah, and Brett Renfro looked great, right? And if he's going to be a Friday night guy for this team has a big upside. I agree with you. Tech has a big upside, but it's game 1. Let's temper those expectations. Pitching staff was good game 1. I'm not saying they're going to do that all
They're going
year.
to like 15 today, and then we're going to be like, oh, there's the Virginia Tech staff we know and love.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm going to temper expectations heading into today. Wagner 3, UNC 9. Jake, are we surprised by this outcome? I don't think anybody had Wagner picked. I think we were all on the UNC train, but I kind of wanted to see a little bit more from North Carolina.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to as well. It seemed like they kind of sleepwalked through this game. I think there's a lot of teams that'll take going 1-0 that really didn't look that impressive. But Vance Honeycutt, I think, is back. It's kind of interesting to see as we track him because he had a brutal sophomore slump. And at least on opening day, he looked the part.
Yeah, he did look the part, and he's taking care of business, doing the right things, and we're just kind of excited to see him back in the ballpark and being 100% healthy. AJ, the pitching was pretty good for UNC, but it's not the UNC team we're kind of hoping was going to be this year.
Yeah, I mean, I do have to give credit to Folger Boaz, throwing a freshman out there Friday night they're supposed to have the senior go out there and be their dude. All of a sudden, you're throwing a freshman out there, and it is to go 5 innings, give up 1 run. That was huge for him. He has a ton of talent. It is something that to keep an eye on for sure because he can be their Friday night guy. He probably is of the future. I was very pleased from his outing today. It's never easy going out and not only throwing opening day, but throwing opening day as a freshman.
Yeah, and he was a guy that they were probably looking at next year as being that Friday night guy, right? And now he's thrust into that role, and he might hang on to it all season if he throws like that. But we want to see more from UNC, but still a good win. 9-3 is a good win. It's a solid win. We're going to talk about a not so good win next here. Noah, I know you've been excited about this one. Virginia Military Institute 8, LSU 11. I got to say here, this LSU team did not necessarily do anything in my mind that looked great. Hayden Travinsky was great. I'll give you that. Pearson was good. Tommy White will be better. But Thatcher Hurd should go out there and dominate this VMI team. No, when you looked at this overall, were you just shocked by the actual outcome?
It's college baseball, Mark. There's always going to be a certain level of shock that you expect, but I wasn't overwhelmingly shocked. I think the problems that we've kind of alluded to with LSU were on display. You saw that maybe the pitching staff isn't a Paul Skeens level, which I know is not something that LSU fans are ready to discuss. But I was actually impressed with the offense. I think that the LSU style of, okay, maybe we'll give up a few runs, but they were able to battle back. This is a VMI team that had kind of stolen momentum. So it was good to see a younger team kind of come together and say, we're LSU, we're going to slug the ball. And you see one of the homers there from Jared Bear Jones. That was the first one. And then they had some later in the game. This looked like an LSU offense that we're used to, whereas the pitching was one that we kind of expected. So I would say the shock is probably not the right word here, Mark.
Man, I'm still going to say shocked because I expected them to go out there and crush this VMI. This VMI team is ranked very, very, very low. They might be one of the lowest ranking teams in college baseball this year. And for LSU to not go out there and take care of business, and they're at home. This isn't like they're going and playing a tournament in some place. They're at home playing this game. They did take care of business. They did win. They did pull away 11-8 there at the end. But
does that look like
less
11,000
surprised.
fans there? Because that's what they reported. That does not look anywhere close to 11,000.
Well, when the ticket taker's writing them on crayon, it's pretty hard for them to find out how many tickets they actually took in.
Now,
But
guys,
they probably sold 11,000.
Nobody holds a certain resentment towards LSU and their fan base more than I do. But the way we pile on to these people is just a little sick.
It felt like they sleepwalked through it. That was kind of like it seriously felt like a championship hangover. That's kind of the vibe I got.
They're allowed to have a championship.
And it's fine. There's only one team that can have a championship hangover.
Hey, they still got the one.
If you do want to find a positive, Gage jumped not only through, but through a very effective inning to close out the game.
He got the save.
Yeah, and so it was. I think that was kind of a big question mark: is why isn't Gage jumping the rotation? Why hasn't he been throwing? And we saw, interview Jay Johnson kind of dance around the answer. Maybe he's not a starter. Maybe he's their closer, and that's his whole plan. And he didn't want to disclose that.
Hey, we're good for Jay Johnson. I really can't fault him and what he does with this team, and it seems like his guys believe in what he's doing. They're all bought into what's happening. So no offense there to Jay Johnson at all with this team. And Gavin Guidry also came in a tough situation, got 2 outs that he needed to. So I do think that there are some pieces in that bullpen that are excited. We have talked about that pitching staff, but to see Thatcher Hurd really struggle there early, has got to put a little bit of question marks there for the LSU fans.
It is funny how LSU has kind of turned this program into like almost a first take where we just start yelling. The rest of the show we're quiet, but as soon as LSU comes up, all right, it's time to hurt some feelings.
I like Bear Jones' celebration. I thought that he did the below show.
I'm pretty conservative when it comes down to it, except for this year. LSU fans have been after me, so I feel like I'm punching back this year. Speaking of a team that was punching back, though, Jake, A&M 15 over McNeese, 15-0 in that McNeese game. Jake, I know you were watching. You got to be a little excited about that offense.
Chef's kiss perfect. Ryan Prager only allowed the one hit. They hit long home runs from Chase Lavalette and Braden Montgomery. I think 8 of the 9 starters had base hits. Really a collective team effort. But again, can they do it again on Saturday? I know I expected a little bit more from the McNeese staff. I think McNeese has one of the more talented staffs in the Southland. But if A&M can figure out the pitching, man, it's going to be a dangerous team.
That is absolutely correct. If A&M can get wins from their weekend rotation, they can be really, really, really good. Noah, this one not necessarily surprised, but surprising is the actual final outcome of the 15-0, right?
Yeah, to a certain extent. Obviously, we talk about the A&M weaknesses. Their pitching. They didn't win a game for however long last year in SEC play. Good for them. Thanks, Jake. Of course, you know that.
6 weeks.
Yep.
6 weeks.
Okay. Well, good for A&M. Obviously, Brave Montgomery going yak in his first at bat is going to be a plus for them. Jason Laviolette went yak twice. Really strong start for that A&M offense. Like Jake said, if the pitching can hold up, this is a team that I really like. I know I went on some other show and I said I really want to pick A&M to win the SEC, and if they play like they did against whoever in the world, McNeese, they have a good chance. But of course, game 1 against a team that they should have beaten. So, we're not going to get too excited. Jake, I see your champagne bottle, but put it away.
Yeah, it's a little too early. Again, we're just one game into the season. I know we're all excited. Everybody here is excited for the season. But we got one more game we want to talk about here, and then I'm going to do some honorable mentions. Seton Hall 2, Iowa 5. Brody Brecht 6 walks, 11 Ks, and 4 1/3. AJ, I know he didn't necessarily come out like a lot of people are projecting him to be the pitcher of the year, possibly a player of the year, all these things. He's full-time baseball now. This felt like just a kind of Iowa win, though, right?
Yeah, and it was kind of the win that Iowa fans are used to, and why a lot of them say that Morgan's probably the better pitcher, even though Brecht is the more explosive arm talent. When he is in the zone, he is untouchable. When he is out of the zone, he's out of the zone, and he's not out of the zone for just a couple pitches. He loses it for beginning of the game. He struggled to find the zone. Still, Iowa scored enough. The bullpen is good. It's not like they just have a couple arms who are starters, and they were just able to, kind of hold Seton Hall down, score enough, and then just not allow runs. I think the impressive part is walking 6 guys and only giving up 1 run. That kind of shows that how effective your pitches are. So again, if you're trying to hop on the Brecht for Big Ten Pitcher of the Year train, this isn't the outing you're looking for, but the stuff when in the zone, you're happy about that.
Yeah, 11 of his outs were strikeouts. 11 of his 13 outs were from the strikeout. And it's pretty impressive when you see that. But the 6 walks has got to be a scary number there that, when he doesn't find the zone, it's tough. When he throws it in the zone, he's really unhittable, like you said. So it's impressive, but not impressive at the same time. So he's got to find the zone more to be able to stay out there and get those 5 innings in to keep helping this Iowa team, especially if he wants to be the Friday night guy in the Big Ten. He's got to go out there and collect 5-6 innings for this team to be really successful in the future. A couple honorable mentions I want to throw out there. Arizona State takes care of business, beating Santa Clara, looking great. The freshman Thomas Burns was outstanding. I know AJ and I both talked about him. AJ, I'm going to throw it to you. He was really good for a freshman, again, on a Friday to start out like that.
Yeah, he was incredible. For me, the 2 freshmen who stood out the most was him and Drew Burris for Georgia Tech. Just 2 guys who not only looked like they'd been everyday players for a while, but looked like they were going to be impact players at the next level. And to be producing like that as freshmen on opening day, that's huge for both those guys.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to Carrick Jackson getting his first win at Missouri yesterday as well. Good for him to see them split there. I'm excited for that team moving forward, but that was pitching for that Missouri team in both games. They just happened to not win the first one, so excited for Carrick Jackson to get his first one. Also, Coach Matt Swope getting his first win at Maryland. Noah, what you want to add something to Carrick Jackson?
No, just a comment that just came in. I do not welcome me. We've been on together. Promise. We've been on, Dennis. You and I. We've been on since day one. You can welcome the other three. You and I since day one. Thank you.
Yes, Arkansas also took care of business as well yesterday. But these are the teams that we just wanted to touch base on that were not in our necessarily top 20 games yesterday because there were so many good baseball games yesterday. A lot more of these ranked teams will be playing each other in the future, but those are the ones we picked for today. Next, we're coming up with a segment that I personally love. This is one of my favorite segments that we've ever done. We're going to keep it all season. It's called Who Did Something Cool? And this could be anything for any one of our guys. As a collective group, I wanted to speak out here. We're going to say that our guy, Parker Bird, down there at ECU, for those of you who don't know, he was in a terrible boating accident, actually on my birthday last summer, and he ended up having multiple surgeries, 20 plus surgeries, lost his right leg there, as you see. He got out there and got his first official collegiate at bat. He got walked, but he's going to get more at bats as this season goes. And it's just really good to see the perseverance of this young man going out there and how this ECU fan base has really put him on their shoulders. And they're so excited to have this kid. And it's just a great story. So, as a collective group, we're all going to have our own individual ones, but I just wanted to go out there and say, Parker Bird, you did something cool by going out there and getting this thing started. Anybody know you got anything to add on this one?
Yeah, great story for, I don't know if you wanted me to talk about my something cool, but obviously with Parker Bird, great story that we've heard a lot about for the last couple of years from ECU. Our own Ashley does a great job talking about Parker, and so many people have picked up his story that it's been cool to see, and now he's finally getting to actually play in these games. So that was great. He did draw a walk, so he's been on base too.
Yes, officially on base, officially getting his first at bat.
It's on base, Noah.
Yeah, gets on base. It's going to be great, too, because he's going to get opportunities to hit in that lineup there. He's going to get some pinch hit opportunities for this ball club. Really good to see here. AJ, I'm going to go to you for your first thing on something cool on opening day. Who did something cool?
Yeah, so this is a guy who did something cool for a team that's actually currently 0-2. They played a doubleheader and they lost both games. But Matt Mascigliano for Sac State. 7 hit by pitches in one day to start the year. That's an insane number. There's a clip. It's a 2-minute clip of this guy getting hit by pitches. All are in the lower half of the body, and by the end of the day, you can tell he's just tired of it. But they need base runner, and he's just sitting there wearing these. I think he had 1 at bat the entire day.
One official at bat in the doubleheader, absolutely.
He got hit the other 7, and then he got pinch hit for, and that guy got hit by a pitch. So
yeah,
incredible. But it's just weird baseball, and we see everything, and it was. I didn't believe it. I had to go watch the video and look up the stats, and it was. I mean, I hope that guy just slept in an ice bath last night.
Yeah, I saw a friend of the program, Steven Schock, said somebody's in this kid a bottle of Advil. Like, that's just a rough start there for getting hit by 7 pitches and getting 1 official at bat. Jake, who did something cool for you on opening weekend?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna butcher the name. Abrel Delgado from Jacksonville University, having 11 RBIs. Yes, 11. He had all 11 of his team's RBIs as they won 11-3 over a Big 12 opponent, Cincinnati. So he is the country's leader in RBIs. No, did I just take yours?
Of course you did, Jake. It's a tradition unlike any other.
Unbelievable. Yes, 11 RBIs.
Uncanny.
On day. It's great. We love it.
Well, it wasn't just you, Jake, who took mine. It was also AJ. I had the backup. AJ, you were actually my number 2, and Jake was my number 1. I thought for sure somebody would take the RBIs, but the hit by pitches, maybe that flies under the radar. God forbid.
You can talk about your Creighton Blue Jays having the biggest margin of victory.
Sure, they won 24-0, but they're not my Creighton Blue Jays at all. So I just want to take a minute to, while I had my thunder stolen, I'm going to take the high road here. The winner of every day, the coolest thing that happened was baseball's back, Mark. The fans won yesterday.
The fans did indeed win yesterday. That was the coolest thing.
There were no wave sightings either, Noah?
I did not see any waves, but it is early. You know, people don't really want to get up in their winter coats and start the wave.
Yes, the winter coats. I will say that my something cool was Oregon State yesterday hitting 7 home runs, tying a career high for home runs in a game. They are currently on pace to hit 385 home runs this season, so look out. That would shatter the current record. But all joking aside, it took them 6 games last year to hit their first 7 home runs, and it took them 1 this year. This Oregon State team is going to be really good, and it was something cool to see 6 different players hit those 7 home runs here for the Beavers, and none of them were the 2, 3, 4, or none of them were the the middle of the lineup guys that had all the home runs last year. Gavin Turley didn't hit one. Mason Guerra didn't hit one. Brady Casper didn't hit one, and they still had 7 home runs yesterday. So this lineup is very powerful. Pretty something cool. Who did not impress on opening day? No, I'm going to let you go first because I don't want anybody to take your one this time. Who did not impress you on opening day?
Well, we kind of talked about it already. It's not an indictment on anybody, but LSU's kind of starting situation with Thatcher Hurd. He was somebody that we kind of want to see him rebound from what he was able to do a couple times last year. And then he really was strong in May and June, and LSU fans will be quick to tell you that. But he struggled against VMI, as did Cade Fisher at Florida, as did Hagen Smith at Arkansas. So really a couple of those SEC arms were kind of just having their not greatest outings. Arkansas ended up getting the win, as did LSU, but Florida was not able to overcome that starting pitching performance. So really just those 3 Friday night guys in the SEC that you would have liked to see kind of dominate, and they didn't.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's tough when you have all these expectations on these kids and they show up against a non-division opponent there and they go out there and they just kind of drop the ball a little bit. Tough to see. AJ, who did not impress for you?
Yeah, this way you can't let Noah go first because then he just takes 3 off the board.
You're welcome.
But none of them were actually what I was going to. Stanford hosting Cal State Fullerton, host a doubleheader and get swept at home to start the year. This was a Stanford team that we had a lot of questions. What is their rotation going to look like? The young talent, is it going to perform? Is the offense, after losing so much, going to be able to compete? The answer to all those was just a big no yesterday. It was demolished. It was run off the field by a Cal State Fullerton team that, frankly, shouldn't be in that position with Stanford. It was, I know it's day one, but I am firmly out on this Stanford team. I just saw nothing yesterday.
Join me.
I just saw nothing yesterday that showed me that they're a tournament caliber team, especially in the Pac-12. That was, I wasn't shocked. I was disappointed.
Yeah, you're not filling 81% of your run production in home runs from a year ago just immediately. People think that they're just going to bounce back because they're that good. And I love David Esker. I think that he is that kind of coach. This team doesn't have that kind of talent this year. And to be beat 15-6 and 4-0 at home, that's tough. That's a tough way to start. Here's this one. Cal State Fullerton is an okay to good team, right? But they're not great. They shouldn't be competing with the likes of Stanford if Stanford wants to be ranked. I fully believe that Stanford will be dropped out of the rankings next week. But yeah, that was pretty non-impressive there from Stanford Cardinal. Jake, who did not impress you?
I got to go really far down the list thanks to Noah, but I'm going to go with Oklahoma State. I know that they were a team that I was very, very high on. There were questions about the pitching staff, but they really didn't hit the ball very well. I mean, their top 3 outfielders only had 1 hit, going 1 for 11 with 4 Ks. They really struggled against a Sam team that is not going to be anywhere near the stats that they faced in the Big 12. They couldn't lay off the changeups. They couldn't lay off the sliders. They didn't really make the routine plays in the field either. It was just kind of a meh effort. They came out flat against a Sam team that they really should have dominated.
Yeah, it's tough when that's what happens, and when you come out there and you just play flat on opening day, it just it hurts your fan base too, because the guys are just looking and go, what is going on here? I'm going with another similar one, Jake, in Kansas State. They really have struggled in these non-conference games, and it just kills their RPI. And coming out there and just kind of not even competing with Cal, it was a 6-3 ball game, but it never really felt like K-State was ever in that ball game. That did not impress me with the team that I had picking to be one of my finalists there in the Omaha 8. I don't have them in Omaha at my last couple picks, but I did have them in my last 12 to 14 guys. But not like that. Not if they're going to pitch like that. Not if they're going to play like that. They got to get to Tyson Neighbors, give him a chance. So that was the rough one there for me for K-State. Who looked the best? AJ, who looked the best? Who looked the best this weekend?
I mean, I'm going to go with a couple SEC relievers because their teams needed them to step up and provide some length, and they did. and that's McIntyre and then Mason Nichols for Ole Miss. I mean, he 4 1/3, and he struggled last year. He was one of their guys when they made their Omaha run, but he struggled last year. They needed him to step up in a tie ball game and provide some length, and he did just that. And then, we already talked about McIntyre, what he did, kind of calming the waters a little bit after Hagen Smith's rocky start. But those two guys, I mean, I don't think either one of those teams walk out with wins if those two guys don't go out and shove and dominate like they did.
Yeah, they had to stop the bleeding, right, and shut it down and keep going out there and collecting outs because you got to find them from somewhere. That was big for both those squads to go out there and go get those W's. Noah, who looked best?
I'm going to go one team and one player for you, Mark. Oregon State is the team, and Anthony Silva is the player.
Yeah.
Every time Silva swung the bat, it felt like he was connecting on it. It sounded like a perfect, and MLB The Show, whether it was a single or hitting over the fence. He's a really great player for TCU who's going to be able to rise up as a leader now in his second year with the program. And now he's got Peyton Tolley in front of him in the lineup. That's only going to help him. And then Oregon State clubbing the ball. Said it earlier, it's kind of like the good old days where Oregon State goes to surprise and pounds a team by 1 million runs and then kickstarts a season full of dominance. It felt like that again for Oregon State, and it's great to see, Mark. I know that you weren't exactly upset when Oregon State won by –
No, when it was 15-1 at my lunch break, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back and keep working here. But I was just excited to see, especially the young guy, Trent Caraway, going out there and getting his first collegiate home run there. He started off the day with a double as well, so he went double, home run, and single. So he went 3 for 4 with a walk. It's a great way to start off your college career. Jake, who looked the best?
I'm going to go with two players who really kind of had disappointing 2023 campaigns. Jalen Flores at Texas and Wallace Clark at Duke. Jalen Flores obviously had the grand slam in the bottom of the 8th when they were down 4-3. Really got the Yeti area jump in, which I think was one of the coolest things of the night. And then Wallace Clark having 3 hits on base constantly. It felt like every time Duke had a rally going, it was because Wallace Clark was scoring runs. So credit to those two guys because, I mean, they had awful 2023 campaigns, and glad to see them on the right side of it in 2024.
Go in the right direction. Good to see. I am also going with another Duke player. I'm going with Santucci because I feel like him coming back after the injury last year and coming out there and getting those outs and really recovering after really stumbling in that first inning. I was impressed by what he did for the rest of his outing there. Very good for Santucci. I think he looked the best of those Friday night starters that we were looking at across the country. He really took care of business for those aces, and I think that he was the one who really stood out for me as being the best ace on opening day. What are you most looking forward to the rest of the weekend, Jake?
Just college baseball being back, seeing how these Sunday guys kind of react. That's what I'm kind of circling on my calendars. Everybody knows how your Friday night guys going to look, but show me the back end of the bullpens when we get those wild, crazy games like we saw with Stanford last year. So pump the brakes a little bit on Saturday. Go ahead and get me to Sunday.
All right, you're just skipping over today's games, which is another great slate of games. Noah, what are you most excited for the rest of the weekend?
Well, I hate to say it, but I agree 100% with Jake. It's always the Friday, okay, let's see what the pitchers are like. Saturday, let's see what happens. And then Sunday, we're going to score 1 million runs and really increase some stats and get some guys some weird-looking numbers. Jack Caglione also pitches on Sunday, so there's that element. Or no, he does not anymore. Or maybe he does. How does that?
No one does.
Saturday? Well, who knows?
I guess they're not throwing Sunday now, so maybe he will be the Sunday starter, but he probably will not be the starter.
Well, either way, it's the thought that counts. But Sunday is always a great day in our sport, and if you're into the old, gambling, the lines are always a little jacked up earlier in the year, so it's a good chance to find some easy overs to hit.
That's fair enough. AJ, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm actually going to focus on today. I want to see if the teams that got blown out today or yesterday respond today. I mean, there were teams that just got eviscerated. I think of the USB Campbell game. That was ugly. I mean, how we didn't mention them on teams that looked the worst. It was Campbell gave up 19 walks. That was unreal. Lost 20-8. It was a bloodbath. I'm curious to see if that offense responds. They threw 8 pitchers. None of them had thrown in D1 before, and I think we kind of saw that play out. I want to see if they can bounce back and at least be competitive against a very good Santa Barbara team.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, AJ. My rest of the weekend is I want to see a team like an LSU come back and just really put a pounding on somebody. I want to see them come out and actually be that returning national champion. I want to see teams like TCU really step up today and play great. I want to see these teams that are supposed to be in our top ranking teams really dominate on a Saturday, especially if they didn't come out and crush it on day one. So I'm excited to see that here today. And sitting at home with multiple TVs going watching baseball all day is going to be a great day. Great day here, especially when it's 20 degrees and it's still currently snowing outside for me. So, good day to watch some college baseball in some warmer areas in the country. So, those of you who have watched the weekend rotation for multiple years now as we start season 3, you know we have our pick'em. So, we're doing our pick'em again this year. The one thing we've thrown in is a little different. We're also going to have an underdog pick at the end of our picks. So we're going to have 5 picks every week. We have an underdog pick where everybody had to pick a team that was an underdog, voted on by everybody else in this CBC chat to say nobody thinks that that team can win. So when you see our underdog picks, don't think, oh, they picked ridiculous. Yeah, we had to. We were told we had to pick something that nobody else would have picked. So when we get to those picks, we'll go through those. But this one here, we're going to start off with Xavier and Clemson. Clemson took care of business. Clemson looked good. Xavier started off pretty good. Noah, the lone is Xavier?
Yeah, I love the Xavier Ball Club. And as you kind of just alluded to, that first inning, I was like, all right, we are back. They loaded them up. They scored a run. In fact, they scored 2 runs. And then after that, it was the Clemson show, and they looked like they did for the last 2 months of last season. I might be investing in Clemson big time again after that one game. They looked really, really good. Obviously, the pitching is going to have to take a step, but they pitched well against Xavier. I'm not confident that my Musketeers can take two of the next 2, but you know what? We're not dead.
No, you're not dead in the water yet. There are some picks that are dead that we'll get to. AJ, pretty good Clemson team here.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, Xavier was. It seemed like they were just missing the pitching depth. If they would have had, Lore instead of him transferring to LSU, I think Xavier might have been, picked by more than just one of us, and it was definitely talked about. But it was the Clemson offense that I think we all wanted to see this team have because we have them picked to, finish second or third in the ACC and make Omaha caliber runs. I wasn't surprised by Clemson winning. I would be surprised if they kind of didn't recreate that offense the next couple of games.
Yeah, I'm worried now for Xavier, thinking that I don't know if they have the pitching depth to really attack this Clemson lineup for the next couple of days. Jake, pretty easy pick there for Clemson for you. Seemed like you were all on.
Yes,
Clemson the
I'm
whole
getting
time.
back to basics. I'm not taking these meme teams. Very, very easy pick to go with Clemson here. I think that they come out and dominate. I'd even go as far as to say they sweep.
Yeah, this Xavier team, like I said, I wanted to see them come out, and they really started it early yesterday, and then it kind of faded, and then it became all Clemson, and I think the rest of this weekend is all Clemson as well. Moving on to the next one, we have Northeastern and Arizona. I'm the lone holdout for Arizona, who ended up winning yesterday. AJ, we talked about this several times. Mike Soroto, very good. This team's very good. Northeastern traveling down there. They didn't come out really with the fire that they had all of last season.
No, it seemed like Mike Soroto was really the only guy on offense to show up. They scored a run in the top of the first, and then had guys second and third, and then ran themselves out of the inning, and that was as close they got to threatening again the entire game. And then it seemed like once Arizona put up 2, which I believe they did in the bottom half of the first, that it was just kind of over and coasting from there. It was one of those games where the score you look at and you think it's respectable, but Northeastern really didn't threaten. I'm going to need the rest of the lineup to wake up and the pitching staff to be a little bit more effective, especially early in the game.
They definitely can. And what was surprising is that this Arizona staff is the one thing we kept questioning. Like, yeah, we know that Arizona's going to be able to hit. They filled in some spots. They're going to be able to hit okay. The pitching staff was like big question marks, and they came out and shoved yesterday for Arizona. They looked really good against this Northeastern team. Jake, you picked Northeastern as well?
Yeah, I came away very, very impressed with that Arizona squad. I think that they're going to – I know it's opening day, and I feel like I'm overreacting to everything, but if they can get that kind of starting pitching from a very, very talented Northeastern lineup, I'd really think that they're going to be a good team. But again, like AJ mentioned, they came out really flat. They traveled across the country, and it really kind of looked like it. They got down early and never really battled back, but I expect them to kind of come out with a little bit more firepower today.
Yeah, good job from Jackson Kent out there at Arizona, getting out there and really battling this Northeastern ball club. Noah, you had Northeastern as well.
Yeah, I thought it would be a good pick for Northeastern to kind of slide in on an Arizona team that, as we talked about, are kind of in a little bit of a rebuild mode after making the tournament last year. It took a lot for them to make the tournament. Some would say that they probably shouldn't have, and they lost a lot from that team. But it looks like Arizona's off on the right foot this year. Expect more from this Northeastern team if we're going to be talking about them potentially hovering around our top 25 later. So if they can at least scrape a win from this series, I'm going to have to keep that in mind when maybe some other polls have them ranked and maybe we don't.
Yeah, it's going to be some question marks later in the season, but I have Arizona. I feel pretty good after that first one. They just got to steal one in the next 2 days here. Next, we've got UC Santa Barbara and Campbell. Boy, we all look smart for that one. I know that's the Campbell faithful, and we do love our guy Justin Hare out there. But boy, did UCSB look good. Matt Asia comes out there and really crushes the beginning of that game there and comes out of the game. UCSB looked like a championship caliber team. I already posted yesterday, said, stop looking elsewhere. This is a team that should host on the West Coast. Jake, how did you feel about this UCSB team?
Yeah, I came away knowing a lot more about UCSB than Campbell. I came away very, very impressed with their approach at the plate. They had a plan of attack. They stuck to it. And even when they got up early, they still kind of stuck to that plan. So I really do kind of think the sky's the limit for this UCSB team. And go ahead and give them the host spot now, Mark.
Yeah, and they got to get some guys some innings out there that normally would not have pitched on opening day, but when you have that kind of lead 19-1, you kind of just let guys go out there and get some innings and stack them up. AJ, I know that you were not necessarily bummed because you've been down on this Campbell team.
Yeah, it's not so much down on the team because the talent's there. It's more of the who is proven. When your number one guy is a transfer who he's added velocity, but yesterday he was just sitting low 90s, and they were talking about him mid to upper 90s in the fall. And I don't know the depth there. I know a lot of offensive pieces of transfer. There's no Belbin, who was the conference player of the year for them last year. It was – I knew a lot more about this UCSB team, especially with their pitching being as good as it is. Sneakily one of the best pitching staffs in the country. And I went with the pick here, not thinking it would be a 20-8, but not surprised that UCSB went and handled business early.
Yeah, I thought it'd be more like one of those Iowa type scores where it's like a 5-2 game, and it's just because the UCSB pitching was so good. But boy, if that offense is anything like we saw yesterday, if they can do anything like that every weekend, this team should be up there for maybe even a national host. Noah, any surprise there?
No surprise whatsoever. This was a team that we were all high on to begin the year. I was actually looking at our rankings in the middle of the game, and I thought, wow, we only have these guys, I think, ranked 23rd. I think this is a top, as we kind of keep saying, top 15, top 16 kind of a ball club right now. And they have a long way to go up until that point. Obviously, they play that big series against Oregon in just a couple weeks here. But I was very impressed by UCSB, and really, we were heading into the year. This is a team that has a chip on their shoulder, and they are also really, really talented.
Yeah, I was impressed by them. I had them ranked much, much higher than most of my colleagues did. I have them at 15 in my poll, and now I might even move them up higher because this team is very, very good.
I'll take credit for being low on them, Mark. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's on you. I tried to tell you, buddy. All right, we're moving on to the next one here, where we have Oklahoma State and Sam Houston. Now, Oklahoma State's not dead in the water here, but very surprising. Sam Houston just took care of business. Noah, I'll let you start with this one because I know that we all had Oklahoma State thinking that offense was going to come out on fire.
Yeah, but they kind of got shut down, and this was not a good start for the Pokes. I know Jake was in attendance and wrote something up about it, but it wasn't an ideal start for an Oklahoma State team that really should have ran roughshod through this team. The pitching was okay, but it wasn't strong, and the offense just wasn't really there at all. So it's a big letdown because Oklahoma State is kind of the same team every single year, and when the things that we know that they need aren't working, it really looks bad. And we've seen Oklahoma State the last few years have these goals. Yeah, I know, Jake. It makes me sick too.
Sorry, I'm just allergic to Noah's rants.
I know, but they have these periods where they look like just an okay ball club, and then they always just kind of hover around 16. So I think we need to be harder on this Oklahoma State team this year, especially if they're looking like that.
Absolutely. I'm easily going to be harder on this team here. So just saying that I did not think this Oklahoma State team is the highest ranked that we should have them. Jake, how many times does Oklahoma State team, like, did they strike out like 18 times yesterday?
11, but it felt like 18 because they
Felt
had a
like
lot
18.
of weak contact. I think they only, I mean, I sat right next to the trackman guy. I think they only had like one ball that was above 90 in exit velo. All of their hits were kind of puny little hits from bottom of the order guys. I think this is going to sound so stupid, but Sam got the big hit when Oklahoma State did it. That really was the difference in the game. I mean, the Sam offense, I think, was really kind of the story of this game. Yannick, I think, is a name that a lot more people need to be talking about. He really looked the part. He had a 106 gap shot double in the first inning. So I think that people need to kind of talk about this Sam team a little bit more. That was kind of the story that I walked away with.
Fair enough. AJ?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually texting Jake about this when he was watching the game, and he was like, Oklahoma State's starter didn't look like a real Friday night guy, and Sam Houston just kind of put up runs, and Oklahoma State's offense didn't produce like we're used to them producing. Again, not dead in the water, but I don't feel great about this one.
Yeah, and that Sam Houston team was a top 10 offense last year. They went down to that LSU regional and they got beat up by Oregon State twice. But they are a good team, and seeing them come out this year with a little bit of fire and take it to Oklahoma State yesterday was good to see. Again, I took Oklahoma State as well, so not good for any of us. We got swept on that one, but there's still a chance Oklahoma State comes back in the next two. The next one we got swept on as well. Fullerton takes two and already takes the series here. I think we all just kind of felt, yeah, Stanford may not be there, but they're at home. They're gonna play. Boy, that was just dead wrong. AJ, I know you and I talked about it, but this Stanford team was the letdown of the weekend.
Yeah, this was my don't bet against Esker pick, and I should have.
Yeah, it's straight up like this team just didn't have the pieces to win those ball games, and they still got to play another one today before the rain comes into California. Noah, any surprise there? I know that you had Stanford, but we really didn't know enough about this team except for what I was trying to tell you.
Obviously, surprised when a David Esker team loses a series at all, and then especially one against an inferior opponent, you would think. But we know that the problems with the Stanford team, we know that they aren't returning a ton. There were a lot of question marks about this team, and nobody really pushed back when we said that. Whereas when we talk about some question marks with other teams, people say, "Oh, wait a minute." Whereas everybody's kind of like, "Yeah, we can see it with Stanford." So I would say that this wasn't terribly surprising.
Yeah, I will say that I did not have Stanford ranked at all in my top 25, and there's a reason for it. Too many question marks. Jake?
Yeah, I kind of expected more out of the Stanford team, and I really wasn't very high on Fullerton. That was kind of more the story here, and I felt like we were giving like the Corbin pass to Esker, and it was not very warranted, obviously, with them going 0-2.
Yeah, and I thought the same thing, Jake. And my thought process was, okay, David Esker for Stanford, he's great. Fullerton not really in full combative mode this year. They're kind of in rebuild mode. They came out and really just took it to them, and just from the opening get out there said,
They do
we're the better
always
team.
get up for these games, though, Mark. They beat
do.
UCLA, they beat USC, so I think we kind of discredited that Fullerton. This is Fullerton's Super Bowl.
They do love beating home opponents. That's 100%. They love beating California teams, so that's absolutely correct. Let's go to these underdog picks, guys. So as I explained earlier, we all had to pick a team that was far underdog compared to their opponent, and they have to win the weekend. So you had to pick a weekend series. It was not just a one-pick wonder. The only one that really would be safe right now is St. John's, now that they don't play 3 games against Florida. But no, I'm going to let you start. NJIT there, taking on Miami. That was barely an underdog, but we all did vote Miami.
Give me a break on the barely an underdog, Mark. It was an underdog pick.
There's still the Institute of Technology.
They held a lead for a little bit in this game. I think a couple innings there. Miami was up on them, and then they kind of stormed back and took that lead. But then they gave it right back eventually. Yeah. They did get walked off on, so at least we made it to the 9th in a tie game. But it was a good effort from the Highlanders, but I was really hoping that they would start me off with a good win to kind of come and brag on the show a little bit. But then if that had happened, maybe Hawaii wins, Jake. Who knows what the domino effect would be. But I think NJIT has a chance to take or two of the next two. But I really would have liked to see them win last night because they were really that close.
Yeah, and I will say that all of our picks actually looked pretty good game one. So we're not like we picked teams that got blown out. None of us took George Mason out there and just said, well, we're going to throw this one out the window. Jake, Hawaii, that was a pretty good one there. That was really close. Do you think they have enough in the tank to get two more?
I think they do. They actually get 4, so there is a possibility of a split. So
Yeah.
Which is
I
not
didn't realize that they were playing 4 out there. But
Yeah, they usually
I mean,
play
yeah, they
four when
really
they
kind of
fly
did
out
look
there.
the part. I mean, especially early. They rode LSU's Friday guy, which is I think all that they have is Quinn. Really, really exciting stuff as they kind of took those punches. I mean, they lost a 50-50 game against an SEC team. You have to feel really good as a moral victory for Hawaii, and they get to wake up, do it again at 6 p.m. Hawaii time, I guess.
We all know there's no moral victories on opening day. There's just victories and there's losses. But yes,
I
Jake,
think
I
George
agree with you.
Mason needs a moral victory today.
George Mason gets no victories yesterday. They get the hey, you showed up, the barely a participation award. I don't even know if I'd give them that for yesterday's game, unfortunately. VCU, NC State, AJ.
Yeah, that was more of a pick with NC State losing one of their big starters. Kind of do they have the pitching depth to fend off a kind of a scrappy VCU team? It close game one. NC State kind of pulled away late, but it was again underdog pick beginning of the year. VCU is a good program, but I do like how NC State looked game one.
Yeah, and I took UC Upstate versus Kentucky. I thought Kentucky, a little bit more small ball. UC Upstate, pretty good pitching staff typically, pretty good in the small ball games. Lost 11-7, but really we're competing there with that Kentucky team the whole game, battling back and forth. Could not come up with the win there, but I do feel pretty good about that UC Upstate. So unfortunately, none of our upset picks have won, which is not surprising because we had to pick teams that were very high underdogs. So we'll do this every single week. We'll keep our stats there, so we'll show you the stats for how we did at the end of next episode. Final thoughts, boys. Jake, I'm gonna let you start here first for me.
I'm excited to get out, get in person again. I'm going to A&M today, so I get to see the home ballpark for the first time. Always a special feeling.
Great to feel that Oregon State does not get one for 2 more weeks, and judging by the snow outside my door, maybe a little bit longer.
You need to make, as a concerned alumnus, Mark, you need to make a pitch because Iowa's playing home games. Why can't Oregon State?
I am not an alumnus. Let's be very clear that I did not go to Oregon State. I was told that I am not good enough to play baseball at Oregon State, which was fine, which was correct as well. But I am not an alumnus. But I am concerned that we can't play baseball here yet.
Concerned citizen of Bend,
Concerned
Oregon.
citizen is fair. Concerned Oregonian, absolutely. AJ, final thoughts?
Iowa is playing in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. They're not playing a home game.
No, on Tuesday. They're playing on Tuesday, a home game.
Yep.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. So, but my thought is there are games currently going. So I'm excited to be able to sit in front of the TV on a weekend and just binge like I did yesterday.
I love it. I love it. Noah, any final thoughts?
Yeah, same with AJ. Just excited to sit down and truth be told, we've got Iowa State basketball for the next 2 hours. But after that, it's college baseball season, and I can't wait to. I said, don't know what the context was, but I was talking about how on Monday I kind of wake up in like a coma and I go outside and I feel the sun on my skin. I'm excited for that feeling because I'm not there yet. Like I don't have the college baseball headache, so I need more.
Yes. I'm ready for a whole day of just sitting here and watching college baseball on my multiple screens and getting to spend the day with my wife, which is going to be exciting to watch some college baseball. When she's excited to watch college baseball, it makes it even better. So I can't wait. College baseball is so back. We have so much more to cover. We're going to bring out so much more content for you guys from College Baseball Central. Keep on the lookout. We have individual pods coming from different conferences. We have all the writing and all the articles that you guys could ever want. We're going to do some short clips also. Cannot wait to be covering college baseball with all you guys this year. For Noah Darling, AJ Sessions, Jake McKeever, my name is Mark Aaron. Thanks for joining us on the Weekend Rotation. We'll see you again next Saturday morning.